warm good evening to our viewers and welcome to the Evening Review Show. I'm Matthias Aufiku, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Well, it's clear that winter is slowly but surely slipping away, but clearly it's not time to put our jackets away. For that, we've converged tonight to discuss some topical national issues, issues that have been making headlines across the country. Tonight we have a special guest in studio. Well, he's originally from the northeast part of the country.
Yeah.
The constituency councillor for Rundu Rural constituency, Honorable Paulus Mbangu. Welcome, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Also a national council member for that matter. Well, you got through to the office as an independent candidate.
Yes.
Well, some of us thought by now, 2.5 years later, you would have faded away. How are you still keeping things going as a solo man?
No, we remain principled. We are sticking to the promises that we made during the campaign. Yeah, that is what is keeping us moving.
Yeah.
We are delivering on what we promised our people. Yes, and most importantly, I'm also surrounding myself with a very strong team, a very competent team. We have very competent CDC members, we have very competent VDC members. Yeah, no. And everyone understand what is our vision.
Yeah.
Our vision is to work and to work very hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, other councillors have the luxury of having a system behind them, a political system behind them to sort of guide them as to what to do and so on.
Yeah.
You don't have that.
Yes.
What has been some of the issues? Of course, you work mainly in the rural areas where we know there are mega challenges as far as basic services such as the provision of potable water, education, sanitation. Those are really the type of problems that exist in those type of settings.
Yeah.
How have you fared in that regard?
Now we are doing very well, especially with the issue of water. Now with water, we have addressed most of those concerns. And because I promised during the election campaign that in 5 years' time, we'll make sure that no one will drink from the river in the whole entire Rundu Rural constituency. And by the look of things, either by the end of this year or the middle of next year or the mid of next year, that promise will be delivered.
Yeah.
I think it's only some few villages that need boreholes. And this year again, we are going to drill boreholes. We drilled borehole this year at Mtengo Mukuru, at Ngaramateya, at Wazanga. We also drilled a borehole at Chimpanda, but they already have other boreholes at Chimpanda. We only drilled in the second one, just in case if the other one is dysfunctional, so that the backup one can also help. So we are also planning to drill borehole at Ngone, Mapupu, also at Kayengona, and once, as well as Mohopi. Yeah. So once we do that, and then obviously we'll deliver on the promise that we made. And we are pushing. With regard to sanitations, that's a national issue. I think going forward, because currently now I'm planning to bring a motion in the National Council on the basic income grant. But once I'm done with that research on basic income grant, then we need to bring also another motion on sanitations. Because, you know, the sanitation issue is quite very much important. It's very much relevant, especially to our society. Because currently now we don't have a policy on sanitations in the entire country. That's why when people are constructing their offices, they don't even consider putting toilets there. We don't have a policy, but we made input with the Minister of Agriculture. They are busy developing a policy now on sanitation. If you go to a town like Rundu, you will find shop, not only Rundu, all over the country, you find shop and there's no toilet. You go to the bank, people will stand in the queue for 3 hours and there's no toilet. When nature calls, they have to run around and looking where can they help themselves. It should not be like that. I think with the input also that we made in the sanitation policy with the Minister of Agriculture, going forward, if it will be implemented by the ministry, I think whenever a person is constructing an office, whether it's a shop, there must be a toilet facilities inside. Yeah, just to make sure that at least a person will be able, you know, to when nature calls, you will be able to have options. Which is not the case currently now. Yeah, but in the rural areas, especially in our constituency, where our plan at the moment is just to construct toilet for the disabled people. Until such a time when we finish constructing toilet for the disabled people, then only when we can look at the other people, such as the elderly people. Once we are done with the elderly people, then we can look now at the other section of society, whether they are the able men and women who are not disabled. But at the moment, our focus is just on the disabled people. And we have constructed a toilet, and we are continuing constructing even this year until we finish at least. At our constituency, we have a list of all the disabled people in the constituency. And that's our first target. We have been telling the other people that, no, for you, I think you need to stand in the queue. Let's help first the needy one. Yeah, the most vulnerable people in our constituency. Those are the most disabled ones. Yeah,
we've been singing this sanitation song for so many years, and we've channeled hundreds of millions of dollars to sanitation over the years, countrywide, of course, it is. But how is it that we are still speaking this language of we are still not where we need to be?
Yeah, actually, not so much was done with regard to sanitation, because, in the absence of a policy, of course, there will be no direction on how to address the issue of sanitation. The policy issues, to me, is fundamental. It will help in guiding even the ministry going forward. It's very sad that 33 years after independence, people are still, relieving themselves, through open defecation. Yeah, the dignity of our people need to be restored. It's quite very embarrassing. Even here in Windu, if you go to Okuriangaba, there, an old man, a head of household, helping himself, just in an open like that, while people are passing. Yeah, it's quite unacceptable. And I think our government did not pay much attention on sanitation. That's why we are still struggling. We're still talking about this song of sanitation.
Yeah.
It's about higher time that they have to invest much resources in sanitation. At least every household need to have a toilet.
Yeah.
That is a basic human right. Yeah, there's no negotiation on that.
Talk to me about decentralization. If at all, is it working? There's been concerns over the years by regional councillors calling for this to happen. And the government has sort of tried to decentralize services.
Yeah.
How's the situation?
Let's first put it in its proper context. Decentralization itself, the origin of decentralization stems from SWAPO's vision during the protracted liberation struggle. It was in the SWAPO Party election manifesto of 1989, especially chapter 12 of the 1989 SWAPO Party manifesto. Now, and then later on, it was also put in the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia, under chapter 12 of our Constitution, specifically Article 102(1), that talks about the regional council and local authority. But even though it was in that manifesto, I'm mentioning that the genesis of that so that people can have a clear idea on whether we have delivered on the promise or not. Yeah. Even though it was in 1989 manifestos and the SWAPO have been ruling uninterruptedly for the past 33 years.
Yeah.
But when you look at the implementations of those promises, to be honest, we have not done enough. The government have not done enough. The policy of decentralization was only actualized or realized in 1997 when they drafted the policy, after it was approved in 1996 by the cabinet. Yeah. So that policy, the policy on decentralization came into effect on the 1st of April 1998. But you must know also that there's a difference between a policy and a law. A policy is just a protocol, it's just like a guideline. Yeah. Even though there was that policy in place, not much was done actually to decentralize the function of the regional council as promised. Yeah. As promised even in the election manifestos, as promised also through that policies. In 2000 there was a decentralization enabling act. But until today, what the government have managed to decentralize is politics. There has been political decentralization throughout the whole country, but there have been no resource decentralization. Of course, we have political decentralization because the regional council and local authority local authority councillors are elected periodically every 5 years. But then regional councils are staffed with resources. Until now, the resources still remain with the central government. Yeah, so this political decentralization without resource decentralization is nothing. Because when you look in that policy, the national policy on decentralization, and even the Decentralization Act, it circumscribes that power, responsibility, and the resources shall be devolved or be centralized to the region. It have not happened. it have just been a song. For me, decentralization is just a song.
Yeah.
It's just a song, but practically there's nothing happening. In the regional council at the moment, only the Ministry of Education have managed to decentralize their function to the regional council. The other ministries, Minister of Agriculture is only rural water supply, the Ministry of Health is only primary health care. So it's just a song, but practically there's nothing happening at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would you say? How is this failure to decentralize, like you call it, to decentralize the resources, not only the politics? How is this impacting the fight to narrow the gap between urban and rural jurisdictions?
Yeah, no, the failure to devolve the function to the regional council clearly demonstrate that the gap will never be narrowed. So the gap will remain wider and wider and wider. Honestly speaking, there be no political will in this country with regard to decentralization. You hear ministers when they make statement, even head of state when they make statement, they talk about the government is committed to bring resources to the people, power to the people, but it's not true. It's just a mere empty rhetoric, but practically it's not happening. It's not happening at all.
Yeah. When you speak to your colleagues who are predominantly mandated to deliver services to urban setups, what are some of the issues that you are picking up that could improve your work who deals with communities in the rural areas?
Yeah, you see, let me give you one example. The Ministry of Urban Rural Development currently came up with a proposal to amend the Regional Council Act. Now, when you look at that proposed amendment, the minister even want to confirm the probation of cleaners, probation of clerk. So instead of decentralizing the power to the regional council, they want to take some of the powers again and bring it back to Windhoek as if Windhoek is a panacea of knowledge. It's quite very dangerous. I think our system does not speak to each other. So everyone is just moving in a different directions, and there's no proper coordination as such. Yeah, because what needs to be done now is that at least regional council should be given enough resources.
Yeah.
And again, on top of that, I'll give example like in Kavango East Regional Council. Last year we were given a budget of 65 million. And then we informed the minister that the money was not enough. We're operating in a red. Now this year they reduced, instead of increasing, they reduced to 47 million. They reduced to 18 million. Now what do you expect? And then, of course, when ministers who are speaking there, they will always blame the regional leadership of not doing enough. You are reducing the budget. What do you expect from the region? Yeah. And then the other issue is that even when the regional councils have been allocated that fund, it have to be authorized again by the minister. We've always been arguing and saying that we need a separate vote for the regional council. Because when you're debating in parliament, you only look at that figure, it's about 1.8 billion for the ministry, but not even knowing how much is going to your region. Yeah. Because they will only make that decision later. What we are calling for is that there should be a separate budget, a vote for the regional council. So that at least when we are debating in parliament, we know how much money is going to Karas, how much money is going to Kavango, or how much money is going to the regional council, to the 14 regional councils. It's better. But currently now it's just in the pool of the ministry. Then it's up to the ministry, the management of the ministry to decide how much are they allocating to Kavango, how much are they allocating to Karas, how much are they allocating to Shikoto, and so on. And that has always been a problem.
Well, Mbangu, we head for a quick break and we'll be back to continue this conversation. Well, to our viewers, we head for a quick break and we'll be back to continue the conversation. Stay tuned.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
Well, we're back from that short break. Honorable Mbangu, let's talk agriculture a bit. Of course, it's a fact that most of the country's green schemes are in that part of the country in which you operate. In fact, a huge chunk of them in the region in which you operate, Kavango East.
Yes.
But we still continue to cry about hunger in those parts of the country. What are people like yourselves doing to curb this monster that's devouring our people?
Yeah. Before I answer your question as what are we doing or what plan do we have? No, we have a good plan actually in the regional council on how can we address the issue of food security, provided if the ministry will buy into our idea. But before I will go to that, I just need also to emphasize on the issue of agricultural sector. At the moment, the agricultural sector is dwarfed. Why? Because lack of modernization. Because currently now we cannot expect even subsistence farmers to grow, to farm in the way they used to do it 50 years ago. Yeah, because a lot of things have changed. The rainfall currently now, the rainfall patterns is unpredictable. The climate variability is one of the other challenges. So what we need now, we need to modernize. The agricultural process need to be mechanized so that we can adapt to the changing situation that we have in the country. Now, honestly speaking, for the past 33 years, our government have not done a lot with agriculture. The founding father had a good plan with the green scheme. Unfortunately, the plan was hijacked because, if I'll be honest with you, the green scheme in our region, for example, in my constituency, in fact, it has disempowered our people. Instead of empowering them, they were disempowered. I'll give you one practical example. Farmers at Uvunguvungu, for example, the government went to the subsistence farmers and they were told, please surrender your mahangu field. Surrender your mahangu field so that when the green schemes comes, when you expand the Uvungu green scheme, you'll be able to benefit from that directly. Then they surrendered their mahangu field. But what is happening now is that even with the green scheme, if you go to Uvungu today, all the small-scale farmers, medium-scale farmers are not from there. Not even one from Uvungu. Yeah.
How are they selected? Don't you have a say in that?
No, when I came in the office, I just found people already signed contract. It was done by the staff here in Windhoek. Yeah, and most of those farmers, like especially in Uvungu, I think most of them are just from the north. About 95%, those are not opinion, those are fact. That's why when the people are saying that our people are hungry, some of them were saying, but how come that we have green scheme when you're hungry? The reality is that those people are just spectators. They're just spectators.
Yeah.
They only look how green are the crops, but they have no ownership. And that approach was totally wrong. Whoever came up with that approach was totally wrong. Now we are busy engaging the ministry because you cannot, a law-abiding citizen, you cannot promote anarchy. So if they sign contract, we must wait until when their contract expires, then we can make changes.
Yeah.
It's a national project. Yeah, all ethnic group need to be accommodated, but most importantly, the local one is supposed to be in majority. Maybe even 60% is supposed to be the local one. Then the other 40, then we share. But it's not the case. So the approach itself was totally wrong. It was hijacked. And as a result, they surrendered their mahangu field. Now some of them don't have a mahangu field because it's there in the green scheme, while they're not even having ownership of that land.
Were they not compensated for this?
Whatever compensation they were given, I think it was just peanut. Yeah, because owning land is something else. Yeah. Then the other issue is that in Namibia, to be honest, agricultural sector, if we can invest in agricultural sector, we can be able to address the issue of poverty in this country 11 times more than any other sectors. We have been having this mining. In which year was the first diamond discovered? I think it's about as early as 1908, if I'm not mistaken, in near Luders. 1908, if my mind serves me well, it was discovered by Zakaria, one of the rail worker. And then we have been mining for the past 100 years, but we haven't addressed the issue of poverty. But with agricultural sector, we can address poverty. Now, the idea that we have, what is that we are doing? Because 2 months back, I was appointed to head the agricultural sector in Kavango East region on behalf of the Kavango East Regional Council. And I came up with ideas. And we want to sell that ideas to the Ministry of Agriculture. If the ministry will buy into that idea, I'm telling you, in 10 years' time, we'll address the issue of food security in the entire country. The plan that we have at the moment for Kavango Regional Council is that we have Mashari Agricultural College, which is also underutilized. We want to take 20 youth from every constituency, except Rundu Urban. And I'll give you a reason why except Rundu Urban. 20 youth from Rundu Rural, 20 youth from Ndonga, 20 youth from Diona, 20 youth from Mashare, 20 youth from Mukwe. Then we take them to Mashare Agricultural College. And then we train them for 6 months. If the ministry will buy into that idea, we train those youth for 6 months. After we train them for 6 months, we can train them in different crop fields. Maybe 4 of the youth from each constituency, you can train them on how to grow tomatoes. The other one, how to grow sweet potatoes and potatoes. The other one, we can train them on how to grow maybe maize meal and so on. Now, once we train them for 6 months, and then they've gained that experience, 6 months, they go back to their villages, in their respective villages, and then in their villages, they can then acquire maybe 5 hectares or 10 hectares of land. Then the government should give them resources, starting capital, so that they can just start. And if a youth is given 10 hectares of land, obviously, he will not be able to manage to run that 10 hectares alone. Automatically, we will employ other youth to come on board. Now, once you will employ other youth, and then at the end of the day, after 3 years, there will be enough food in the region. Then we can tell ShopRite, and we can even tell Food and say, listen here, the youth are producing tomatoes in the region. You must stop now ordering tomatoes from South Africa. And in fact, what we are buying from South Africa is GMO. In other countries like Zambia, Zimbabwe, they don't even want GMO because it's not even health. We are busy intoxicating our society. But with the organic food, at least our society will become more healthier. So they can be able to produce enough tomato throughout the year. Can tell them so that the harvest will just be continuous in every month, so that they can be able to supply all the shops. Now, if that pilot program will work in Kavango East, then the ministry can replicate that in all the other 14 regions. Imagine if in Oshana, for example, there are also 100 youth doing the same, Oshikoto the same, Karas the same, Erongo the same. After 10 years, there will be enough food in this country, and there will be food everywhere. Youth will be addressing the issue of food security, will also be addressing the issue of unemployment, because the youth will also employ others, and then will also be addressing the issue of economic empowerment. Because those youth, if they have 10 hectares of land, they will make a lot of money. They will even become millionaires. So that's how to develop the country. That's a plan that we have in the region for Kavango East Regional Council. We want to sell it to the ministry. If the ministry is serious in addressing the issue of food security, they will buy into that. And if they will buy into that, then we can replicate the same program in all 14 regions. After 10 years, there will be enough food, and even the prices for food will be very low.
Just as we head towards the end, just on a different subject matter, you are, of course, one of the lawmakers who vehemently opposed the marriages bill that was in front of the National Council recently and the National Assembly recently. Could you briefly give us a summary of your opposing views that you had and why you took the stance that you took?
No, my view is that the current marriage bill, because there are loopholes, isn't it? You remember there was a ruling by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage. And of course, I also agree with others. We are not in agreement with that, because to give you a context, in my opinion, when a judge make a ruling against the order of nature, that have got nothing to do with interpretation of law. Such rulings are merely based on opinion, not interpretation of law. Because if a judge, for example, I'm just giving an example. If a judge, for example, come up with an idea that there are people that are wrong with the wrong gender, and that have got nothing to do with interpretation of the law. Because we are all created. Now, God, when God created human being, it was a man and a female. And our Constitution also very clear in terms of marriage under Article 14. It talks about a man and a woman of full age. Yes. And we have always been saying that this homosexuality, the deviant or other democratic behavior, depending on which fence you are sitting on. But in my opinion, it's a deviant behavior. Because you see, there's just no pleasure in an annex. A man getting pleasure in an annex. An annex is a sewerage system of another person. Yeah. I don't understand how can a human being, how can a man get pleasure into that?
Yeah.
And we are saying it's also eroding on our cultural values, because one of the problem that we have in our country is that we lack an identity as Namibian. So in the first place, I'm a Namibian, I'm an African, I'm a man from Kavango. So our culture is very clear. And now Article 19 of the Namibian constitutions allows everyone to promote your own culture.
Yeah.
Yes. And what we are simply saying that we're expressing our cultural views, which is also protected under the constitution. So we've been saying that the bill that Honorable Jerry Ekanjo proposed, there's nothing wrong with that, because at least we want to protect our society from moral decay. That's our opinion. And you see, these homosexuality things don't even start in Africa. Those are Western practices that are being imposed on us. Yeah.
So are we going to selectively choose which Western practices to follow?
The harmful one, because, like, when a man sleeps with another man, because an anus, we can't equate an anus to a vagina. An anus is a waste product. It's a sewerage system. Yeah, it can't be a sex organ. Even when people want to change it to be a sex organ, the reality of the matter is that, I mean, it's not created for that purpose. Yeah. People are just trying to change it. Yeah. And we need to bring sanity in society and say, no, colleague, this thing's not right.
Yeah.
And in most cases, I think it's in 2013, I wrote an article. It was in a Namibian Sun as well as a Namibian newspaper with regard to the issue of homosexuality. When I said homosexuality is Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that ball will become open. Yeah. Because it cannot, a vagina can lubricate itself, not an anus. It will never lubricate itself.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it will just become open. It become even, in a health hazard, and going forward, people might even need a lot of assistance. In the government have to invest a lot of money in health sectors. Yeah. And we have been saying that, colleague, it's just not right. It's not part of our culture, so we need to nip these things in the bud.
Yeah. Well, Honorable Mbangu, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Okay.
We wish you well with your work going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, to our viewers, that's it from the Evening Review team. We hope you enjoyed the show and have a pleasant weekend.